A man bound hand and foot, then humiliated in public. This is what can happen if you refuse to be called a slave. The video was widely circulated on WhatsApp groups in Mali and was sent to the Observer's newsroom in Paris by a group called Gambana. They helped us track down the man who was being tortured. He lives in the Kai region in western Mali. His name is Mahamadou Sidibé, from the village of Kremis, near the border with Mauritania.
Why did these people attack you?
They beat me because I refused to be called a slave.
It started when Mahamadou saw other villagers emptying out the house of his cousin Lassana.
We went to see what was going on. I got a message on my phone, so I took it out to read it. One of them said, "Are you filming?" I said, "No, I'm not filming." They told me to give them my phone. I refused, so they beat me and tied me up. They dragged me to the chief's house.
Mahamadou and his cousin are victims of what's known as caste-based or descent-based slavery. While slavery itself, forced labor and the buying and selling of human beings, has been virtually eradicated in the region, in many villages, traces remain. People who belong to the so-called slave caste face discrimination, and if they dare complain, the nobles are furious.
We said, "We're not your slaves."
We are not your slaves, words the nobles cannot stand.
They say our grandfathers and great-grandfathers were slaves, that they accepted being slaves, so why should we refuse? They said to me, "If you don't accept being a slave, get out of our village." I said, "Okay, I'll leave."
In the video, one word keeps coming up. Gambana is a group dedicated to abolishing caste-based slavery in Mali. Lassana was the group's coordinator in Kremis.
In the Soninke language, the word Gambana means we're all equal. No person is worth more than another. Regardless of social status, we're all equal in the eyes of the law.
The group has coordinators like Lassana across the region. Gambana has been looking after Mahamadou, his cousins, and 60 other residents since they fled the village 2 months ago. 8 of the attackers spent a few weeks in jail before being released on bail. The men say they'll go back only if justice is done, and the nobles agree to stop calling them slaves. Marabata is Gambana's vice president.
Videos are very important to us. We have a coordinator in every village. If something happens, he tells us about it and sends us a video. We can use the video as evidence that someone was tied up or stabbed. We have the video to prove it.
The group also sends its videos to its extensive network in the Malian diaspora, an important source of financial support. Marabata himself spent nearly 40 years working as a security guard in France. Back in Mali for his retirement, he has personal reasons for joining Gambana. The Kai region is home to herders like the Fulani and farmers like the Malinke and the Soninke. All are divided into traditional castes: nobles and bards, blacksmiths and shoemakers, and slaves like Marabata's family in the village of Amdalai.
We're the Diarra family. We're a big family. My half-brothers, my cousins, everyone. We're all Diarras.
The Diarras have been in the region for more than 200 years.
We're still referred to as slaves from the time of our grandfathers until today. When people walk past our houses, they say they're the children of slaves.
The people behind us, they're all called slaves?
Even the children and the pregnant women. If a baby is born tomorrow, it will be thought of as a slave.
So-called slaves like Marabata and his half-brother Sherif Ali can't be mayor, can't participate in village meetings, and cannot marry outside their caste.
Our great-grandfather was a Bombara from the south. We were Bombaras, and now we've become Soninke.
Last year, Sherif Ali started telling people he was no longer a slave. He was summoned by the local chief.
They said, "We heard you telling people you don't want to be a slave. Is that true?" I said that it was. They said to me, "You don't understand. You're a slave. Your father was a slave. Your grandfather was a slave, and your children will be slaves until the end of time."
Then, this summer,
They showed up on June the 13th. In the morning, a man came to tell me that people were coming from Tombakara and the neighbouring villages to confiscate our fields.
Sharif Ali's daughter made a video.
Some carried swords, others carried machetes or axes. One man was even carrying a hunting rifle slung over his shoulder. I told my family to stay inside.
The nobles told Sharif Ali he couldn't plant his crops. They said he could no longer act as the village's imam, and they banned him from the other 7 villages in the district. For now, the Diarras are the only slave family in the district to have said no.
A lot of people say no behind closed doors. They don't want to make waves, but we know they support us.
The next day, Marabata takes us to visit Tombakara, administrative center of his family's district and home to the nobles, the Doucouré family. They have heard that we're in the area and we are not welcome. The chief and his family refuse to see us, so we go see the sub-prefect.
The Doucourés call themselves the masters. They're the masters in the district. The Diarras want them to stop calling them slaves. The Doucourés say that as far as they're concerned, they are slaves. They say it's tradition.
When the sub-prefect was posted to the region last year, the Doucourés told him that for celebrations like weddings or baptisms, the 2 castes are supposed to help each other collect water and slaughter animals. But Marabata says that's not what happens.
You'll never see a noble cutting up a sheep. A Doucouré woman will never carry a 15-litre basin on her head.
There is no intermarriage.
If my son asks a Doucouré girl to marry him, they'll probably tie him up and beat him.
The sub-prefect has visited both families to try to mediate.
It all comes down to the word slave. I told the Doucourés that they shouldn't call them slaves anymore. I said, it doesn't cost you anything to stop using that word.
There is one village that is safe, Montbri, to the southwest.
Yesterday, we met people from a village where 65 of them had fled from one village. How many refugees are there here?
1,228.
More than 1,200 new arrivals in a village of just 1,700 people. The refugees live on one side of the village in newly created huts. A Canadian NGO built a second water tower for the village, but most of the help came from the villagers themselves.
The village chief asked his people to help us build the huts.
This is a Malenke village. The Malenke people are also divided into castes, but the chief tells us that his village abandoned the master-slave divide when Mali became independent.
In this village, we don't talk about slaves and nobles. We've all been equal for the last 60 years. If someone asks for shelter, you can't turn them away.
Many of the people who found refuge here have given up hope of ever going home. Like them, Kariba left because he refused to be called a slave.
I haven't seen my wife or children in 10 months.
As an activist for Gambana, he was also a target.
If I go back, they'll assault me. I'm scared to go home.
He wants to bring his wife and 4 children to live with him, but he can't afford the €40 taxi fare. Kariba takes us to visit the Fofanas. They are one of 10 families, around 400 people, who fled the village of Sakora after an attack in January. Fatoumata was there with her baby Fanta, who was just a year old.
They came to our houses to beat us. They ransacked all the houses and arrested the men. They stole everything. Money, motorbikes, everything. My baby was sleeping. When they arrived, they threw stones on the roof. She was scared. She tried to get out. When she stepped out of the door, a man hit her with an axe.
Fanta was treated at a hospital in the capital, and doctors were able to save her eye.
How could someone do that to a child?
I don't know.
Fanta was one of 6 people injured in the attack. No one was arrested, and Fatoumata says she will never go back. Like Kariba, she and her family have found a new home. Afterwards, I ask Marabata the same question. What could make a person take an axe to a 1-year-old baby?
Hatred. For them, a slave child is nothing, no better than an animal.
Mali's constitution says that all Malians are born free and equal, but there's no specific law criminalizing caste-based slavery.
In Tambakara, they say that there's no slavery. It really doesn't exist. But the term is used.
What can be done to change that?
The government should issue a decree banning the use of the term slave. But it's not just the name. If slavery was just a word, there wouldn't be anyone tied up or beaten. People wouldn't be fleeing their villages.
Anti-slavery groups proposed a law in 2016, but 3 years later, the government in Bamako still hasn't taken it up.